Season 2, episode number 17. I am just a fat guy. Starting April 22nd, Target is launching some excellent deals. Number 1, 20% off men's and women's shorts. Look, summer is coming and this is the time to rack up. Next, we're talking select natural baby items. When you mothers-to-be or even new mothers out there spend $50, you get a $10 gift card. And lastly, this week, Target is also featuring the car seat trade-in event. So for all you mummies and daddies out there, you can trade in a car seat and get a 20% coupon for your next car seat. If you love to shop at Target, check out the Target shopping links on www.keepit100girl.com for your weekly listener discount. Or if you're anything like me and you shop online from your phone, just look in the show notes of this episode on the Keep It 100 Girl podcast by tapping on the purple podcast icon. Now, I only have an iPhone, so I don't know what your color of your podcast icon is, but just go look for it. And then to dig deeper, you're going to look for Season 2, episode number 17 of the Keep It 100 Girl podcast. So Keep It 100 means Nina keeps her conversations real and true. And to fuel these conversations, this is a forum where I help both men and women voice their opinion and confidence with no filters, boundaries, or judgment. We celebrate embarrassment as far as you allow me to take it with your Keep It 100 story. Welcome to another edition of the Keep It 100 Girl podcast, and I am coming to you live and direct from Washington, D.C. And as we round up to the end of April, I'm coming to you with more men topics. And this one is especially geared for men. There's no stopping the body positivity movement for men. And I'm actually talking about it today. So if you're a guy out there listening who's been told no, or felt like because of your size you were rejected, well, you're in the right place for the next 30 minutes. Not just men, but plus-size men are always seeking ways on how to look sharper without coming off as superficial, right? In this episode, you're going to learn how the impact of dress influences the way you speak and act. Yeah, there is a trickle effect. So during the episode, you're going to find that I make reference to the term fat guy, and I just wanted to let you know up front to all my listeners that I am coming from a good place. And you're going to hear my struggle with even saying it multiple times during the episode with my special guest, Alan Dubon, who is responsible and endorse the use of the term fat guy. Men come in so many different shapes, sizes, and backgrounds, but you guys all have a common purpose to inspire those that feel like they can't, right? That they can't, and we're going to show them how they can when it comes to dressing, just being a big guy. Today, Alan Dubon shares his own personal Keep It 100 moments of transitioning from being that beanpole of a physique to 300 plus pound guy. So if your MO is to go against the norms of life and society standards just by simply being you, and that's a big guy, a fat guy, a big dude, whatever you want to call it, this episode will show and inspire men to love themselves and make their dressing dreams a reality amongst all the friggin' criticisms, no's, and rejections that you normally hear on a regular basis, or you're just tired of hearing it. So today we're celebrating your embarrassment. Are you ready to keep it 100?
Oh, definitely ready to keep it 100.
Yes, I'm ready to keep it 100.
I'm ready to keep it 100, girl.
You know I'm going to keep it 100.
So what is the definition of a plus size guy? I mean, I will admit that I'm probably one of the biggest offenders, and, and it's just, I'm going to label it as a preference. Like, it's my preference, or I'm just not attracted to big guys. So I wanted to bring to life and shed some light on the misconceptions of a plus size male, and having Alan kind of represent the mindset, the personality behind a big dude. And my mission on this episode and in this segment is to represent and show what big and tall, oversized, plus size, fat guy, whatever you want to call it, are all about.
I don't know what the proper term is. I'm going to say a larger size, plus size guy. I don't know. Is there another term I should be using?
I'm not one that just kind of looks for that softer word. I just say I'm a fat guy. And some people say you're a big dude, or whatever. And people get uncomfortable sometimes, but I just, to me, it's like, I'm just a fat guy. Like, it's okay. Because for some people it's like, I feel very sad. And it's like, I'm working on that, trying to not be anymore. But I just, to me, it's like, let's just call it what it is, right? It works for some people. I wouldn't go around calling everybody else a fat guy. You could say a larger dude or whatever. That usually works, or a bigger dude. But I think those are some, bigger dude is probably the most accepted all around. But for me, I'm like, it's just a fat guy. It's okay. Because it doesn't make me sad,
Like I tell you guys from time to time, we all are products of our environment. And I have to start from childhood with Alan. And I asked him really to kind of paint a picture of his childhood and his transition to being a big guy and what led him there.
Before that, you weren't born a fat guy. You were born a...
No, I was. And my first son, so my third child, my first son, is just like I was. Like, you look like you don't feed the kid, right? Like, he eats like a man, but he's just thin. And it was somewhere in the third grade that I started packing on some weight. And that's about the same time my dad took off too. So I don't know if they correlated or if there was just something else genetically. I don't know, because I have a lot of big folks in my family on both sides. So I don't know if it was a genetics thing or because I was sad I wasn't moving around anymore. I can't tell you that part. But it is around that time that it started happening.
So his transition, his journey will start as far back as the third grade to present day, being 30-something. So we're going to eat this whole breadcrumb trail that roots back to certain behaviors that started in school, to the busy and daily routines of being a father, a husband, and an entrepreneur.
So I started getting a little bit bigger, right, in third grade. I remember that. But I wasn't, I don't think you'd call me fat at that age, right? I was just kind of started filling in. And then as the grades, progressed and I got older, I started moving into like husky clothes and, all that kind of stuff. But I could still keep up. So I was eating more, I guess. But I was still playing a lot of sports. So I could run with everybody. I could play basketball, so it just didn't impede my life. Moving into high school, junior high school, I was a bigger dude, but I wasn't as big as I am now. And once again, I could keep up. I could run. I could do the thing. So I could eat whatever I wanted because I was still being active. So in high school, they wanted to put me in as a lineman or whatever in football. I wasn't interested in playing the sport. I probably should have, but I wasn't interested in playing the sport. But they kept telling me you were built perfect because you can run you've got the mass. You know, they're like, we'll build your muscles up so you have more muscles or whatever, but you've got the size, so we don't have to bulk you up, but you can still run. And that's that mix that they want, I guess. And so, I just never did. And then just kind of, the more and more I got into school, like into college, doing my side business stuff, it's all sit down work, right? Like school is mostly sit down work. You're sitting, listening, you're sitting, studying, doing web design and business consulting. That's usually sitting, Then I graduated from my degree in laboratory sciences, more sitting, then you're tired because you're working all the time, trying to go to school, having kids. So even more, and when you get a chance to rest, instead of want to run around the front yard, I just want to sit, right? And so it's even more sitting because I'm tired of sitting from all the sitting. And it's just this bad mix, right? And so that's kind of what led up to where I'm at now, and I just kind of crossed, I crossed it over the 300 mark, and something I never thought would happen. I got up to, at one point I was like 380 is the highest I weighed. I know I weighed more, but that's the highest I ever dared weigh myself, and now I'm, recently I've lost, some weight and stuff. But yeah, that's kind of been my journey.
So Alan uses the term dressing fat guy nice. And what he means by that is, well, this is how you dress nice when you're a fat guy. And there is a cost of dressing sharp now that, your body is different than normal societal standards. So he's going to highlight how his body is different and how he has adjusted and transitioned his dress to accommodate that lifestyle change.
So up until I kind of got over 280, I was comfortable dressing myself. Like I liked dressing sharp. And I can't remember who said it. It might have been Steve Harvey. He said, you look at the guy, and the more expensive the suit and the clothes, the poorer he was, right? Like the poorer he came from. And that was me, right? I would save up my pennies so that I could buy nice stuff, nice clothes. I liked dressing sharp. Then you kind of get into moving into all this stuff, and I'm busier with school and kids and all that. Plus I was gaining the weight. Buying those clothes became more expensive. I looked frumpier in nice clothes because all of a sudden my body was way different. And so I kind of told myself that, I'm not in a job that requires me to wear nice clothes. And I can have a shirt to go to church or whatever, and that's not a big deal. But I kind of told myself, hey, you know what? I'm cool. I do internet business too, so I can do that in shorts and a t-shirt. And I did. And I just started doing business that way. So it never impeded me in the way of like, oh, he should have been sharply dressed. And so I kind of convinced myself, oh, it's okay. Really, I think it was an insecurity of, I don't know how to dress this body anymore. But that's kind of where that led to. And then, I don't know if you want me to jump into this or not, but then I got into a job where I needed to dress up and dress sharp.
So I guess as a female, I want to know, is there an insecurity men have to overcome? Whether they're going from beanpole to large, whether they were born like chubby and just stayed chubby and can't do anything about it chubby, whether they have a dietary issue, a genetic issue. So Alan didn't know how to dress a fat guy body. I think that was part of his transition. And in his case, his body type is unique. He has a smaller waist and bigger belly. So how does he accommodate for that? So in this clip, we're going to learn through Alan, what are some typical body hang-ups men have?
So it wasn't necessarily the weight that made me not confident, if you will, right? Like I'm fine saying I'm a fat guy. I know where I sit, right? But I didn't know how to dress a fat guy body. I didn't know when I was just chubby or a little bit more than chubby. I was cool. I knew how to dress that. I could tuck things in right. You learn little tricks to do stuff and whatever. But when you, like, I carry most of mine in my belly. And so once you got that big belly, it's hard to get your shirts to fit right, because to have them long enough, then they're poofy out the side and you just look this hot mess who's trying to dress nice, right? And so I was actually really worried about going into this job because I had to dress up. Confidence level about me as a person, just fine. But I didn't want to be that fat frumpy guy, right? Even though you have nice clothes, you can look frumpy, right? So I started looking out to see if there was tips on how to dress for big men. And there wasn't really any specific stuff that I found. But I came across this guy named Tyrone. And he had this well-dressed man kind of course. I can't remember the exact name of how it goes, but like well-dressed academy, well-dressed man. And he had this course on how to dress, but everything I saw was just more either just hefty guys, like not big fat guys, but just kind of chubby guys, like dad bods, down to thinner, more like model looking guys. I'm like, well, that doesn't fit, right? And so I was like, I started messaging him, and he was really cool, and he'd get back to me. And so I'm like, hey, before I buy your course, I'm down to do it, but I know how to dress nice. I don't know how to dress a fat guy nice.
Men might think there's nothing slim about them, but next, you're going to hear all the tips and tricks and knowing the right terms to explain, whether it's to store staff, whether it's to your shopping assistant, whether it's to your style assistant. You're going to explain what fat guy nice dressing is all about.
Oh, bro. He's like, first of all, you're not a fat dude. You're a big dude. Like, let's call it, and a lot of people do that. And I'm cool with that, right? I get where his intentions are. I'm just crazy. And I'm like, whatever, let's just call it, But he started telling me, look, you can get shirts that are slim. And I'm like, there's nothing slim about me, bro. And he goes, no, it's the cut. And he started teaching me a little bit about the cuts and about, getting tall but not big. And if I want to hide my belly a little bit, I can get a vest. Because I told him, look, the other thing is I get hot because I'm fat. So, wearing a suit coat is nice, but in the middle of the summer, I'm going to die. So what do I do about that? Like, is there a thinner suit coat that still looks nice or whatever? He's like, oh, you can get a vest. And that, but he's like, go buy one that's made to you. He taught me about bespoke clothing, and he's got another term, I can't remember, but just custom made stuff. He's like, it's a little more expensive, but it works great. So you'll use it longer. So in the long run, it's better. And so, so I bought his course more because he had given me so much on the outside that his course wouldn't have taught me the stuff I was insecure about. But yeah, I gotta thank him a lot as far as getting me to feel comfortable. And now I'm a lot more comfortable going into the stores and saying what I want and getting closer and closer to stuff that fits me pretty darn perfect.
So what do all big dudes know or don't know when it comes to dressing? Alan gives his own personal advice and keeps it really 100 on what men are thinking, but not saying out loud.
If you want to learn how to create a sharp appearance and gain the social benefits Alan shared in this episode, you're in luck. Myself, Ty Kuttner, and the Well-Dressed Academy have partnered with Nina and the Keep It 100 Girl podcast to bring you a special offer. Starting next month, we will be opening enrollment to an exclusive group training program to teach you how to dress sharp as a big man. Create a presence of authority and power when you dress like the big man on campus. I'll teach you exactly how to dress for your frame, even if you struggle with this your whole life. Join us by clicking the link below. If you know anyone who could benefit from this limited time training, please share with them. Hope to see you guys there.
next clip is for the everyday man who's listening, the traveler and career professional learning the basics of men's plus size lines. And this is what you should know. You should think of it as stylish clothing tips for the modern man of size. Don't you like that? I think that is what I'm going to be using going forward. The modern man of size. That's what you need to be calling yourself.
So are there any other useful fat guy?
I like to get up quiet on that one.
Fat guy tips?
Yeah, one of the things, so if you got a belly, your shirt comes untucked, right? If you're a big dude, all big dudes know that. Our shirts come untucked. You sit too long or you wiggle too much as you're sitting, your shirt's going to be all untucked, and that's where you start looking a hot mess, right? So there's these things called shirt stays that will clip to your shirt, and you can clip them down into your sock that you're wearing, and it literally pulls your shirts down. So it's really hard to make them come untucked. Or if that little side comes untucked, you can just use 2 fingers and pop that back in, and it looks perfect versus trying to do the whole shirt. And it just pulls it down, and it makes you look slimmer because everything is tight and tucked in. It's good. So those are lifesavers for me. Sometimes they go off in the airport though, but most of the time, if you get them with the little smaller clips, you're fine to go through. Or if you tell them, hey, I'm wearing shirt stays, they'll pat your 3 little spots where the shirt stays go, and you can point right to where they are, and they'll feel it and they'll say, okay, that makes sense. It is what you're saying it is, and then choosing a good belt, that makes a big difference. Something a little thicker, because it depends on how you sit, like how your body sits. Like for me, I have a smaller waist and a big belly, and so I tighten my belts more because I've got a smaller waist than what my belly shows, and so but because I have the belly, it kind of curves the belts a little bit. So you got to make sure you get a stronger belt so you're not busting it out. So you pay a little bit more for your belt, but it's so much more worth it, because I used to buy the cheaper belts and they'd last me a month or 2 and then pop, where now it's like, oh, okay, they can handle me pulling them tighter and my belly pushing on them, and it curves a little bit, but we're good. It's still solid as a belt.
So now we're going to morph a little bit, because when you're posting up on a woman as a big dude, dating is another kind of roadblock, if you want to even think of it that way. That might be a little harsh, but dudes are already afraid of rejection, and it just multiplies when you're a big dude, right? You already have the rejection layer, and then now the fact that you're a big dude, you might have some insecurities associated with, is she going to talk to me or not? And then, like I said earlier, I will admit I am one of those percentage of girls who would have snuffed you, because it's my preference, but I like slim guys, like really slim. But there's also what I call the girls that I call the chubby chasers, who want to feel that bear hug and want a big guy. So what's that like? Is it a thing? Is it a real thing?
Yeah, like you said, there's a few that are just not going to talk to you because you're a big dude. So you don't want them anyways, right? Because you might think they're hot and want them that way, but overall as a relationship, you want somebody who also finds you attractive, right? But I think that's a really small percentage, and as dudes, we're always afraid of that rejection. I think there's a much smaller percentage of women who will flat out reject you because you're fat, right? Now, you might have to work a little bit on some of these girls and show them that, because, maybe they're not into big dudes just naturally, but they're also not opposed to them. It's not who they gravitate to. But really, I think a lot of it comes on to how you talk to them, the confidence level that you have. I hear a lot about, so I've been out of the dating scene for over 10 years now, but I remember back then, even people, when I was in college, I would get like phone numbers from girls that were quote unquote way out of my league, but it was because I didn't go up and talk to them like, "What up, ma? How you doing, girl?" You know, I didn't go talk to them like that. I talked to them with respect and confidence, and I think that's a big one. If you can exude confidence in yourself, then I believe that women are very attracted to that. And confidence doesn't mean that fake stuff. Like, oh yeah, I'm a baller, I'm amazing. No, it just means I'm comfortable in my own skin and I'm comfortable with who I am and I have a lot to offer.
So Alan refers to this term called peacocking, and what he's referring to here is just ways men try to overcompensate as a big guy when dating women. And, you know, it's just flocking your feathers way too much. So Tyrone Kuttner of the Well-Dressed Man Academy tells men, be a guy that women want to be with. And I couldn't agree more. Always work on yourself. It's not a one and done. Be fun, do exciting things, because you know what? Women just enjoy the ride. So make the ride a fun one.
Stop worrying about being the big dude, right? There's a lot of women who don't care if you're big or small, right? And some who love, what I call them, chubby chasers or whatever. They like the big dudes, you know? But really, it's go shine and become the best version of you, and not in that fake front kind of way, but in just being awesomely you. And there's going to be somebody who fits the mold. And they may not like the same things, but they like you and they're going to support you in what you do. So that's my biggest tip for dating.
So next, we're talking about special occasions here. And everyone in their lifetime has undergone an interview. And we're already nervous when it comes to interviewing. But because you're a big dude, so you already have like the self-conscious thing going on. You're nervous. And come on, let's keep it real. Let's keep it 100. You guys have a tendency to sweat a little faster than the average man. And that is an embarrassing moment, right? The moment of sweating the sweat. So here you're going to learn some of Alan's tips and tricks when it comes to managing not only just the interview process, but managing through the sweat.
So one of the things I'll do is if I know I'm going to be interviewed somewhere ahead of time, I'll go scope the place out and feel the temp, right? So this last job I got interviewed in a hotel, and I knew that hotel kept a cooler temp, so I was safe, right? And it was winter time, so I actually wore a sweater, which I never do. But I had gotten so big that I didn't have any nice shirts that didn't look like they've been worn for 5 years. You know what I mean? And so I went and bought a pair of Walmart pants that looked good, right? You couldn't tell were Walmart pants, you know? And because they were just black slacks. And then I bought this sweater. I don't even remember where I bought it, but we paid like $25 or something. JCPenney, that's where we got it. And so we got that, and I just wore the sweater and the pants and a nicer black shirt, like just a t-shirt, but the black ones underneath. So it looked like I was doing that intentionally. It looked really nice. This is after I talked to Tyrone, right? And so I went in, but because I knew it was colder, I knew I could get away with the sweater, right? Like if it wasn't colder, I would have killed myself because I would have looked nervous sweating, right? If I don't know the temp, I will go, I feel out the shirts, and so I need them to be stiff enough to look good and not look all wonky on you. But I also need them to be breathable enough to where I can be in there, and even if I'm hot, like it cools me off a little bit. And then the other tip would be to wear a nice undershirt, not the cheap thin ones. And this sounds counterintuitive, big dudes, you know, like wearing something that's a little thicker is warmer, but it'll soak up more of that sweat, right? And so it'll kind of disperse it out through your body and allow you to stay looking fresher than the little thin undershirts, because those will soak through a lot faster. And then just kind of, as far as your nerves, just kind of remember that they saw something in you and they want you, and this is yours to win, right? And so that's kind of the attitude I go in with is, okay, I'm going to get this. I win. And whether I get it or not at the end, right? But if you go in with that attitude, you're a lot less nervous because they want me, not I need them, right? And you don't want to be all cocky in your answers either. But if you can set that up in your head, it's kind of like the sports guys do right before. Like, I got this. I'm going to win. You're the best. Whatever they're doing in their head. If you can do that before an interview, I think that really works.
As you will notice by this time of the interview, I've sort of kind of graduated, I guess, to some comfort level to say fat guy with no hesitation. But I really am gravitating towards the modern man of size. And in this segment, Elle and I talk about being mentally cool on being happy about your physical appearance. So if that's what you're struggling with, you are not mentally happy, you want to listen up to this part, because this is where the inspo comes in.
I love that you can say it now. You're still a little like...
I know now. I cringe, though.
Yeah. No, so here's the thing. With going back to the original episode that we were doing about, and I talked about choosing to be happy. You can choose to be happy in whatever skin you got, whatever weight you are, whatever color of skin you are, all of that, right? And there's challenges to everybody, no matter whether you're fit, thin, white, black, brown, whatever. There's challenges, and so remember that. So you can choose to be happy, and it doesn't mean that you have to stay that way, right? But you can be happy in the moment. I can't lose 100 pounds right now overnight, but I can work on that and still be happy where I'm at now because I'm just happy in general, right? So I think the biggest lesson is be happy with who you are as a person, that stuff inside, whether you believe it's a spirit or just the electrons firing in your head, whatever it is, be happy with that. This outer shell, you can change a lot about it. And you can put in some work and do some stuff. So I guess it's more of a mind thing, being mentally cool with who you are and then working on to achieve the goals that you want on the physical appearance as well as, intelligence and intellect and all that kind of stuff.
Cool.
All right, next is fat guy hangups and relatable scenarios. And we got a lot of those here. We're going to keep it 100 with those. And this is a really, really good example. Ellen talks about personal, real life experiences where he's revealing what people are thinking, but not necessarily saying, or they're kind of saying it out of the side of their mouth. And by this, he talks about those, of course the fat guy would break it. Or, of course, just because he's a bigger dude. Or, the fat guy is coming. Scoot over. Because he's taking up more room than the average person. I think hearing these things over time, you mentally adjust. And by that, Alan describes it as making yourself a little uncomfortable, just not to have that reaction from someone or a public reaction.
I always kind of watch what chair I sit in. So, I had one, like the plasticky lawn chairs,
Oh, right.
I sat in one of those and it looked older. And it busted out and I was so embarrassed, right? Because of course the fat guy would break it, right? Really, anybody could have sat in it and it probably would have broken, but I sat in it, right? And so it's like, oh man. So now I'm a little bit more cautious about where I sit with stuff like that. As far as, in the airplane, I've been flying a lot. So I like to sit in the aisle because I can lean out. And so when somebody's crossing, you're only bugging the person a little bit because I know I take up more room, right? I still don't need to buy 2 seats yet, But another thing is if you're flying in a less, like Southwest, they'll give you a spot next to you if their flight is open. They'll give you a ticket, you lay it on the seat, and you got a spot next to you that's open. And nobody will sit there. So So that's kind of nice if you can get in early enough.
So because you guys are big and tall, it doesn't mean that you're not capable of doing the traveling or just being exposed to the same opportunities. And Alan talks about what's it like traveling as a big dude.
I find the aisle to be one of the best because you're just out of the way, or the window. Window's my second choice because I can kind of tuck into that window a little bit and be out of the way. And I would rather make myself a little bit uncomfortable versus, hey, you got to put up with my arm, on your arm because, well, I'm just a bigger dude, right? Yeah, I choose to stand most of the time unless there's enough room, like there's an empty seat in between you, then I'll do that. But once again, that's me choosing to be a little bit more uncomfortable, if you will. I find it more uncomfortable to try to squeeze into a seat next to somebody than to just stand. Plane doesn't give me an option, but like on the subway or something, I'll just stand. Versus if it's kind of crowded. If it's not crowded, I'll sit, right? But if it's kind of crowded and I've got to sneak in between two people, we all know that ain't happening. So I just stand, right? On a plane, you don't have much of a choice, and so you just kind of deal with it and, empty your bladder and do your bio breaks before and after and try to hold it. That's what I do because I don't want to be the guy crawling up and getting out. And, if you happen to be in the aisle, that's a lot easier if you got to go pee or something. But if not, just try to hold it. So that you're not having to crawl over three people plus you're a bigger dude. You know what I mean? Like all of that.
Right.
Even if you're not a bigger dude, we all know planes are so cramped that even a skinny dude's an inconvenience to have him crawl over two people to go to the bathroom. So just kind of stuff like that is some of the tips that I have as far as that goes. Book early if you can. Get a aisle seat. It's the best because you just lean over the other way. When the drink cart comes over, you sit back and you kind of bug your person for a second. But most people are understanding that you've been leaning this way most of the flight, so they're not going to trip out that you come back in for, a minute or two.
So there's something that speaks about being dressed nicer and getting the respect from people. Alan also uses the term the pretty woman effect. In order to set himself apart, dressing nicer is critical for his everyday look, whether it's casual or professional. So he goes into how he's managed to not only being mentally cool and happy about his physical appearance, but incorporating the modern, cool way to express your individuality. And let me backtrack for a second, because dressing nice applies not just to this specific gender and body type, it applies all around to either gender. And another layer to this is if you're a minority, because any minority listening to this episode will totally identify with the fact that we always have to level up our dress game. And the reason being, and I'll never forget my father telling me this, and I'm sure there's many of the similar stories like this, but I would always say in high school, but all my friends wear it. And he had to sit me down and say, there's a difference when a white person wears X and you wear X, because you are going to be criticized and you are going to be judged, whereas they have that privilege to wear whatever you want. And so I say this to say, dressing nice should be your default standard. And I will even give a better example is when I see people board a flight and they're boarding in leisure suits, track suits, ripped up jeans, and that's fine. That's your prerogative and you have that right. But again, it's perception. And, when you're sitting in first class dressed like that, I'll tell you what conclusions people are drawing is that you work for the airline, or you're probably the 1 in a million or 1 in 1,000 who can't afford this seat. I mean, these are unfortunately the judgments that the other demographic is making. I mean, I'm keeping it 100 and I'm keeping it real. So that being said, in order for you to be taken seriously and people kind of, this is the world we're living in. It's not like a Nina made up story. This is the world we're living in. In order to be taken seriously, people judge you by what you dress.
And really, I find that when I dress nice, even though I'm a big dude, people don't get that, oh shit, this fat guy's gonna sit next to me look, as much as when I'm just dressed normal. So there's something about being dressed nice. Tyrone says that in his course and in his group. And I didn't buy it at first. I'm like, yeah, sure, you get a little bit. No, you get a lot more respect when you're dressed. When you're dressed nicer, so much more. I had the pretty woman effect. I went into a store one day trying to look for something, and I was in a hotel, right? So I gone out to the local store. I was kind of shopping around, and I got ignored. So I got a little pissed, and I left. The next day, I came straight from one of my meetings, and I was dressed sharp. I had 3 people trying to sell me stuff, right? And so same store, same guy, same budget. But, my wife called it the pretty woman effect because I looked the part, right? I looked like I could afford it or that I dressed that way or whatever. And, the night before I had dressed down, so I was probably in shorts and a T-shirt and then a baseball cap,
I love it.
Nobody paid attention.
So we've always pretty much acknowledged plus size guys, right? And I think in the past, we've just referred to this segment of the population as husky, big and tall when it comes to dress. And oftentimes, you would say, go to the big and tall store, right? But I hope this episode gives you men the confidence to express your style, your personality, your individuality. And there's so many more like cool websites out there where you can shop. And one example is ASOS. I mean, I use it all the time as a woman, but more so in the last 2-3 years, they've taken major trends and added the freshest spin for the modern plus size guy. They have all the gear you need when it comes to dressing fly. Their fit ranges from plus and tall, and you can create the coolest look and switch it up, and make everyday night and everything in between as extraordinary as you are. So when it comes to dress, it doesn't mean you're not worthy of proper representation or having that respect from society. And this is your chance to be fairly represented. Because guess what? You wear clothes, have a killer style too. It's just your appearance, your height, your body, your size, your shape, your type. It's seen as outside the norm. So no more society or industry standards going forward, right? And I just wanted to let you know that I will be collaborating with Tyrone Kuttner, who is the founder of the Well Dressed Man Academy. So if this mastermind, this group, this forum, this community that we're revving up next month is of interest to you, and it speaks to your struggle with learning how to dressing quote unquote nice, how I went off earlier before, or even just knowing if your outfit works for your body type. I mean, these are the type of discussions we're going to have, and this invitation only podcast will be step 1 of many. So go ahead and visit www.keepit100girl.com /podcast, and you're going to go to episode number 17 to click the appropriate links. Or you can just head directly and opt in by visiting bit.ly/S as in Sam 2 E as in elephant 17. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to do a live stream podcast next month. So we're going to be in the studio, and we are going to be shooting the tips, the advice, the inspiration around what you would like to change with your outfit. Speaking of travel, the best kind of weekend is to book a hotel so you can feel like you did something. Then do a whole lot of nothing while you're there. It's kind of the best of both worlds that we love to do every spring and summer. And these summer getaways are just for that. So now that you have your dressing style and you already had that personality together, but now it's one of a party scene, maybe it's a funky bohemian and cool vibe, or maybe you're just hip but beachy with this chill vibe. Well, here you go. Here's my friends with benefits code. N as in Norman, I as in India, B as in boy, A as in alpha, B as in boy, E as in elephant, L as in love. This code is what you need to get $25 off your next booking using the Hotel Tonight app. And let me tell you this, I don't use anything else but this app when I book travel. And I'll tell you why. Because I'm staying at 5-star hotels for nothing. And then you kind of graduate to different levels and you get different perks. You don't get that on Hotels.com, Expedia, Kayak, just to name a few. So check it out. Summer's coming. But that wraps up another episode of the Keep It 100 Girl Show. Every week, people, I give you that fist bump, boop, boop, to help you improve your girl or guy game. And today you heard tons of tips, advice, inspo directed to a male body positive movement when it comes to styling and dressing. And it doesn't stop here. Remember, join our group by visiting the keepit100girl.com podcast page and look for episode number 17. Here's what you're going to find. Number 1, a link to register for the invitation-only podcast. 2, you're going to find another link if you want the tips and tricks to download. These are the tips and tricks that Alan has shared that has helped him. I'm here to empower your butt every friggin' week and give you that dose of self-confidence to help you realize your worth. Remember, Nina celebrates embarrassment, self-love, and those life lessons that make you go, oh, sheesh. I might even suggest things that'll make you go, has she friggin' lost her mind? And the fact that you all are being open and honest is a true statement of the Keep It 100 mantra and what it really means. And guess what? We're not finished. So before you go, if you like this episode or any other ones, kindly leave me a rating. And I'm going to say it, 5-star review on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play Music, whatever you use, because I rely on it 100%. It helps me stand out from the crowd, and it helps women and even you men understand us and yourselves better. And more so, I help you keep it 100. I keep 100. I keep it real and true. Smooches.